All right, what's going on, guys? Simple Sports back again. Sunday night episode, New Year's Eve. Happy New Year to those of you out there listening for tomorrow. So, my Tennessee Titans are in the playoffs. I cannot believe it. So that's what I want to talk about. I'm not going to make this too long. I just want to give a quick reaction to that right after the game. Sort of my thoughts on the game, my emotions, and how I feel about it all. And then also, projecting forward. So, as it currently stands, first of all, I'm happy that they are getting into the playoffs, for one. I'm super excited. It's been forever. I think 8 years since they've been in the playoffs. So I'm pretty happy just in general. However, I'm very, very extremely nervous and cautious and scared about what's coming towards us next weekend. But we'll get into all that. So here's my initial reaction. I'm happy that they're making the playoffs. And albeit they played a very ugly game, and not a good game pretty much the entire game, I will say that there's two things that I have hope for. One, and this is the first thing I'm going to talk about, I had hope for all year, so that hasn't changed. The Tennessee Titans, if nothing else, they play the style of football that you want in the playoffs. They play solid defense, and again, I'm simply talking about their style. I'm not I guess grading them on how good they are, and that's the problem. But they play the style of football you need in order to win in the playoffs. They play solid defense, not great, but the defense isn't horrible. For the most part, they do give up a lot of big plays, a lot of stupid plays. Oh yeah, I apologize about the smoke alarm. I know I said in my last video I was going to get that fixed. I went to the store, forgot the batteries, so you're gonna have to deal with it again. But anyway, so yeah, they play solid defense, not great. It's above average. I'll give them that, but it's not. It's not like Jacksonville's defense or Minnesota's defense, someone like that. I think it's good enough that if the other side of the ball was good, I think it's good enough that they could win the Super Bowl with it. But that's the problem. But they play solid defense. They run the football, and they have a bruising runner in Derrick Henry, and sort of a similar one in Murray, although he's a little more shifty than Henry is. So they have a running attack with a solid offensive line. And they do play action, get down the field occasionally. Short throws, smart throws. Nothing too extravagant. And that's how they play football, and that's how they win games. And that's the style that you need to play in the playoffs. My issue is their level within that style I don't think is up to par, and I think that's going to be the problem. Now, what's good about it is, as what I was going to look up is, as I think, as it stands currently, they are going to get the Jaguars again. It'll either be the Jaguars or the Bills. I don't know the end of the Ravens game just yet. I know last time I checked, they were up 27-24, and it looks like that is still the case, but Cincinnati has the ball. So if I'm not mistaken, they would be playing the Jaguars again if the Ravens win, or they would get the Bills if the Ravens lose. I'm not 100% sure. Whatever. Either way, what's fortunate is either of those games are winnable, so they could actually get a playoff win. They've beaten the Jags twice, and the Bills are sort of on their level just from a distance. I haven't really followed the Bills as closely, obviously, as I follow the Titans, but from a distance, they're on the same level. They obviously have the same record, and sort of play the same style of football. So we'll see. I don't know how they would match up against them. I think favorable, but you never know. And then, like I said, they get the Jags. Jags they've beaten twice, so that could be a plus going into the playoffs, and they could actually get a win. The issue is, and this is what I want to talk about, even if they were to win their first round, they would likely get the Pats or the Steelers in the next game, and neither of which I have any confidence that they could beat. And for the reason really that the game was close today, and that's because they left. They left a lot of points on the field. A total of, hypothetically, obviously, 19 points. They had 2 picks, 2 turnovers in the red zone of the Jags and got 2 field goals. So they left 4 points there. They had another possession that started on like the 45 or the 40 of the Jags due to a short punt, and that turned into a field goal. And then they had a pick by Byard, which, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember. I think it got them into Jags territory. And again, that time they got no points. So I just assumed that they would get a touchdown, giving you 19. But even if you gave them a field goal, 15 points. They left 15 on the board. At halftime, the game should have been 20-3. And they came out in the second half with the ball. They got 2 turnovers in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the first half. Got 6 points when they should have gotten 14. And on top of that, they come out in the second half and don't get a touchdown. They get another field goal. It's just, my thing is, if you imagine that you win your first playoff game and you end up with the Pats in the next game, and you end up in that same situation. You played a great first half defensively, and you get 2 turnovers late in the first half in the Pats red zone on the road with a chance to go up 20-3 against the Pats on the road in the playoffs. Like, and with the style of football that you play, like, that is a very winnable game, even for the Titans. To go up 17 points going into the second half, I mean, that's a winnable game for anyone, especially with a team that runs the ball as well as they do. So that's why I don't have any confidence. The offense didn't look well. The offense looked terrible in times, and at times it looked better. Now, I give the Jags credit. Obviously, they have a great defense, so I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But my point is, when you have those opportunities, when you're supposed to be a good team, you're trying to get to a Super Bowl. This is your first time being in the playoffs in 8 years. You got to capitalize on those opportunities. That's what the good teams do. Even not the great teams, the good teams capitalize on those opportunities. And you know, it's just disappointing that they couldn't and show that they had that resolve in them. Now, late in the game, I was encouraged because, and the second reason I mentioned, the first reason being that they play the style of football that you need to play in the playoffs. But secondly, Mariota showed some heart, especially towards the end of that game, and he made a specific run. He made a couple of runs on that last drive that they had. But specifically one, I think it was on like 3rd and 6, and he just ran the ball, made a little juke inside of his lineman to get a couple extra yards, and then he put a stiff arm on one of the linebackers or the safeties from Jacksonville and muscled ahead for the first down, and that essentially sealed the game along with 2 or 3 more runs. And it was huge to see that because it felt like the first time Mariota said, you know what, I'm going to do this. Forget all this other stuff, kind of deviate. I don't know what the actual play call was. It looked like just a standard, pass play. I don't know if it was a design run. It didn't look like one. So it was nice to see him just take control of the game. And it seems like that's the first time we've really seen that from him in his entire career. And it's fine. Obviously, like, it's only his 3rd year. I'm not expecting him to be, like Tom Brady or Peyton Manning in his 3rd year and, like, lead them to Super Bowls and MVPs and things of that nature. Like, I don't expect that from him. And definitely not in his 3rd year. I do expect great things from him because I think he's shown a lot of resolve. I think he's shown a lot of talent. He's made a bunch of great throws that you can point to, a couple of this year that were just amazing throws, and it's nice to see that. It's just inconsistent, and a lot of that is him. A lot of that is the play calling. There was a couple of plays that they run constantly where there's 1, maybe 2 receivers. It's just it's incredible to see, and at the same time it's sort of gut wrenching because you know that they can do better. You've seen it, and you just don't really know what the issue is. So I don't know. Maybe that's going to be sort of the turning point of this season in Mariota's career, was that run and him kind of saying, you know what, I can do this in a moment where it's like, I mean, the game is very much still in the balance. The Jags get a stop there with about 2 minutes left, and I think they had one more timeout, maybe not. and instead you put the game away essentially. And maybe that's a spark that they need going into the playoffs. I don't know. It's better late than never, obviously, but you never know with a team like that. I mean, they come out a lot of times and beat good teams, and then just a couple of weeks ago they played the Rams really, really close. Although, in my opinion, they should have won that game. They left points on the field that game as well. A couple bad plays and turnovers, but for the most part, they're always just, I don't know, they always come out to be an average team, and they make average team mistakes. And tonight they did some of the same things. Adoree Jackson worried me early in the game when it's still undecided. The offense is struggling to move the ball, and he gets a punt return, albeit on a flag or a fair catch, I believe, because I think they had to re-kick it anyway. But he's playing around with the ball, doing like pretending to be a quarterback, doing this drop back and things like that. And listen, I'm all for having fun. Like, I don't discourage guys from having fun. I just think there's certain things in certain times where you sort of need to be, as they say, PC. And I think if you're a team who's known for dropping the ball in the big game, and a team that's on almost a decade-long playoff drought, a team that people had a lot of expectations coming into the season for, a team that was on the fringe of being a 2 seed a couple of weeks ago when they went up to Pittsburgh and almost fell out of the playoffs completely. It's just, I don't think that's a time for that. And again, I'm all for having fun. I don't even have a problem with what he did. I just sort of question where the head is of not just him. There's a lot of guys. And again, I'm all for having fun. It just seemed like in that very moment, you have the crowd that's booing your offense every other possession, sort of playing around at that moment as if you sort of are disregarding, like, your fans matter. And that's sort of why I'm doing this podcast, is because I am a part of the fan base, and we want our teams and our players to know that we do care about what they do. And, listen, it's part of their job, obviously. We don't want to take it too seriously, but it does mean something to a fan when, you have some of these people who are diehard fans who watch every game, who go to game, buy season tickets, and all kinds of things like that. And all they really want is the effort. And that's cool. But again, I'm all for having fun. I just think in that moment it was a bad look, especially given your team's history and given the situation that you're in and all that stuff. Just not a good look, in my opinion. But overall, I didn't have a problem with it. I just thought at that moment, it was a little bit distasteful. But he made a huge play in the game. He had a fumble, and I think they were looking at it to make sure if it was a catch on the fumble that he caused. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's his first forced turnover all year. I know he didn't have a pick, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if he caused any fumbles, but if not, that's his first one. And it was huge because it looked like he got beat on the coverage. He came up and made the tackle, but it looked like he was conscious enough to know that the receiver needed to make a football move, and he sort of just timed his punch along with that, and it was perfect. The ball popped out, Tennessee recovers, and of course they get a field goal out of it. But the point is, like, you're starting to see him come around. You see Mariota make that run with the stiff arm, which was it was amazing. Like, I followed them on Twitter during the game. I was tweeting during the game, and seeing some of the fans on Twitter just after bashing him all game and bashing the team all game and all season and bashing the coaches, it was nice at that moment, even with just a minute left in really the season, is what it felt like. He made a huge play, and the fans were like, they embrace it. It was like, that's what we've been wanting to see all year, and it was nice to finally see that. So I have my concerns about this team. I think, given their draw in the first round, I sincerely think they could win the playoff game. But they're going to have to tighten up, no pun intended, on their sort of hashtag that they have for the team. But they really are going to have to tighten up, and if they want to make some genuine noise in the playoffs. And they have the team and the ability and the style to do so. They just got to go out and do it. And, we're going to see if they can. I'm super pumped that they're in the playoffs. It's the first time in, like I said, I think 8 years. I think the last time they made it was 2010. And or 2009. I don't know. However long it's been, whatever. I'm pretty pumped about that. I just hope that it goes well. I've been hard on them throughout the season, as a lot of people have. But here's the great news. You were in the playoffs, really, today. You won the first round. And as of right now, you're 1-0 in the playoffs to me. And I like that. They came out when they needed to get a win, and they got it. And, going forward, they just got to continue doing what they did today, find a way to win the game. It wasn't pretty, and I'm not saying it necessarily needs to be, as long as you get the dub. I just wish it were a little prettier to sort of put your mind at ease, but they got the dub, and, that's what it's about. So, yeah. The Cincinnati-Baltimore game hasn't gone final just yet. Still, let's see how much time is left in that game. 53 seconds left. Cincy still has the ball, so we'll see if that gives them. I think they just need the Ravens to lose to give them the 5 seed. But yeah, so I'm gonna leave it there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.